shit, guys. Fire our shit.
Well, howdy folks, and welcome back to your home port. Today we're looking over the HMS Nelson, which was provided to me by Wargaming North America in order to give you another perspective as you try to decide whether you are going to burn 375,000 free XP to get it. Yep, that's right, 375,000 free XP. If you decide you're going to go for it, will you save it up or will you spend gold to convert XP from other ships in your fleet? If you're saving for it from scratch, it's going to take a long time. I don't think I'd have the self-discipline to get that done. I'd always be spending it on other ships and stuff. But if you are the kind of person who can do that, my hat's off to you. If you were to convert XP that was built up on your elite ships at 25 XP per doubloon, that would come to 15,000 doubloons. That's a fair chunk to be sure. Now, how much real money does that cost? If you go to the premium shop and use the buy any amount of doubloons option, as it is today, and type in 15,000, it comes back with a price of $79.60 Canadian funds. Mine goes through the Canadian store. Any way you do this, it's a hefty investment. So stay with me and we'll look it over so you can make an informed decision. HMS Nelson was laid down in December of 1922 and named in honor of Horatio Nelson, victor of the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Incidental side note, I grew up in a city named Nelson, British Columbia, and I actually went to Trafalgar Junior High School. HMS Nelson was not commissioned in the Royal Navy until August of 1927, joining her sister ship HMS Rodney. Nelson's career was most colorful and eventful, being involved in a mutiny, damaged by mines and torpedoes, took part in the hunt for Bismarck, accepted the formal surrender of both Italian and Japanese troops upon her decks. She also escorted convoys in the Atlantic and Mediterranean and supported numerous amphibious landings against Italy and the Normandy landings as well. Finally, she was decommissioned in February of 1948 and taken for scrapping in March of 49. Here in World of Warships, though, all of our old friends live on in perpetuity. HMS Nelson, as she stands in-game, has many pros and many cons, you might say. Pros include a repair party consumable that is nothing short of fantastic, strong HE ammo characteristics with 101mm of penetration, and good alpha damage, and seems to be particularly good at setting enemy ships on fire. As for cons, well, she's quite slow. For Tier 7 at 24 knots, her Citadel sits well above the waterline. Her turret traverse speeds are not great, and while she does have a plethora of anti-aircraft guns, the majority of them are short range. As well, and this is just my impression, the main guns firing AP just don't seem to get the job done reliably. They feel like they should be much better for being large 16-inch guns. Being built under the guidance of the Washington Naval Treaty, there are many apparent compromises, as with all ships that adhere to these restrictions. The Citadel has strong armor on the front, top, and sides, while not much to write home about on the rear area. Indeed, the front athwartship bulkheads are very thick, and they need to be, as the bow armor of only 25mm is easily overmatched by any ship with guns larger than 14 inches, of which there are many in-game. Torpedo bulges are good at 32mm and contribute to the okay 21% torpedo damage reduction rating. Casemate armor provides a further 32mm protection over the Citadel area, and the barbettes and turrets are also very strong, ranging from 184 to 406mm. Superstructure armor measures anywhere from 16 to 25mm, while the conning tower is well put together with 127 to 356mm of armor. Overall, the armor is alright, but don't expose your Citadel broadside to enemy fire while it is sticking up so far above the waterline. You will be penetrated and sent to the bottom. Main batteries consist of 3 triple-barreled turrets arranged on the center line and all forward of the superstructure. There are no rear-facing main turrets. For myself, this is not an arrangement that I prefer, even though there are some perks to arranging them this way. The main one that I see is a very concentrated punch with the ship's best armor behind it to absorb return fire. As well, it takes very little to switch your guns from port to starboard when you have your bow pointed towards the action. Nelson's main guns are 406mm or 16-inch and can hit enemies over 18 kilometers away. A good sigma value of 1.9 helps rein in the dispersion to the tune of 242 meters. As I have the ship configured with the main battery modification 2 and a 12-point captain that I was testing with, the guns will reload in 31.5 seconds and their rotation is considerably sped up to an alright 39 seconds for 180 degree rotation. Your first set of secondaries consists of 6 single-mount, dual-purpose 120mm guns with a range of 5 kilometers and a fairly quick reload at 5 seconds, firing HE ammo that does 1,700 points of damage and has an 8% chance of starting a fire. As well, you have 6 dual-mount 152mm guns that reload every 12 seconds and deal 3,100 damage firing AP ammo that also have a 5 kilometer range. If you are forced to retreat, these guns are the only deterrent, the only means of defense until you get to a safer position. Nelson's overall anti-aircraft rating, as I have it spec'd out, rests at 41, which doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence on the surface of things. Looking in a little deeper, we see that Nelson has 89 individual anti-aircraft guns, which sounds vicious, but the potential problem here is that 83 of them only have a 2 to 2.5 kilometer range. The remaining 6 guns, the dual-purpose 120mm guns mentioned earlier, only have a 4.5 kilometer range in their anti-aircraft role. Within the 2 kilometer bubble around Nelson, it's a very dangerous place for aircraft to be sure, but this won't keep any of them from dropping their torpedoes or bombs, so you'll have to be prepared to crank up your torpedo beats and keep those fire hoses ready. And not just because of the anti-aircraft. HMS Nelson is a large vessel, and as such has a fairly large turning radius of 750 meters, but a reasonable rudder shift time, as I have the ship spec'd, of 11.9 seconds. That has to do with my commander and certain upgrades, which is fairly good for a battleship. Nelson is also not a fast ship at all. Max speed at 24 knots doesn't give you many options when you need to get away from danger or when you need to get where the battle's going down. And as well, being that large vessel also brings with it a pretty high detection range of 14.8 kilometers by sea and 12.4 kilometers by air. So far, you would be forgiven for thinking that Nelson was nothing really special. Sounds kind of average, might be difficult to excel in. It also sounds like the actual cost to have this ship in your port for what you're getting could be considered a little high. But there is one last thing I need to tell you about that could be a complete game changer for a lot of people. HMS Nelson has a fairly unique repair party consumable, one that allows you to heal up to 40% of ship's damage. This is incredible. Not only that, it can be used twice with a 120-second cooldown. If you opt for the premium version of this consumable, you will get 3 charges of it and only have to wait 80 seconds in between uses. Think about that for a second. You could heal 120% of your damage in the match. Can you say Dreadnought Metal? So, you'll have to save up free XP until you have the 375,000, or will you shell out the $79.60 Canadian, as I have it, as currently listed in the store, to convert XP from your other elite ships in their port? Either way is a hefty investment, so you have to decide if you think the ship will be enjoyable for you to play. Guns and armor are reasonable. AA, maneuverability, and concealment do leave a little bit to be desired. And then there is the unique repair party consumable to consider. Without it, the not so good areas of the ship's performance would be a deal breaker for myself, but with that consumable, and toss in the premium version for good measure, now you've got something that can make a difference in the match. The ability to reclaim up to 40% of lost hit points by itself is good, but to be able to do that 3 times is like taking 2.2 HMS Nelsons into the battle. That's a tremendous bonus, and a good captain who can make the most of that opportunity will do very well indeed with HMS Nelson, in my opinion. Well, folks, there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. If you really enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments. Alright folks, thanks very much for stopping by and watching. I'll catch you next time.